Like to see the Trump administration focus on in 2018 is Congressman Lee Zeldin, who's with me now. Hey, Congressman, how are you?
It's great to be with you, Lisa.
So, Congressman, you had voted against President Trump's tax reform law, his signature law, and now you've got your governor who's threatening to sue President Trump over it, particularly in regard to the SALT deductions, which is something that you were concerned with as well in your opposition to the law. So do you support Governor Cuomo?
Well, no, the governor is he's running for president already. He's trying to get a jump start on 2020. I think that the argument of that it's unconstitutional because it unfairly targets Democrats is ridiculous. If the governor feels like his job, his work is done at cutting taxes and making it easier for New Yorkers, whether it's our income taxes, our sales tax, our property taxes, everything that really the reason why we have the highest state and local taxes in the country. I think that the governor should be focused on that. If he thinks that his work is done, then he shouldn't run for re-election in 2018. But it looks like he's already running against the president. And no, I'm here fighting for my district. I'm fighting for New Yorkers who want to have the best policies come out of Washington for them. But this governor is certainly way over the top on this one.
And, you've been a big supporter of President Trump's. You were even there when a lot of Republicans weren't. So, has this changed the dynamic of the relationship at all, being opposed to the law or being opposed to the tax reform bill?
No, President Trump has had a great first year. You look at the numbers on the economic front, where the market is, the amount of new jobs that have been created into the millions, unemployment at a 17-year low, consumer confidence at a 17-year high. On the judiciary front, getting Neil Gorsuch confirmed. On the national security front, I just got back from the Middle East a couple days ago. It's my third year visiting the troops in Afghanistan. I was in Afghanistan, Kuwait, Jordan on this trip. I have not seen their confidence as high. ISIS is getting wiped off the map all across Iraq and Syria. Our military is feeling good about it. It's being very clear for ISIS that any type of caliphate that they want to establish under a Trump presidency is going to be a caliphate in hell. They're getting wiped out of Iraq, but also seeing extraordinary gains in Syria. And on the veteran front, we passed an expansion of the GI Bill that the president signed into law, the Whistleblower Protection Act for our Department of Veterans Affairs getting passed and signed into law. So I'm just giving a few examples of where I think the president's had a great 2017, and I stand with him. I support him. It doesn't mean we're going to agree 100% of the time,
right.
But that's what this is about, working together, and hopefully more wins in 2018.
Well, and Congress, I know you were tweeting throughout the day about the protests we're seeing in Iran, and you had tweeted that the big difference between what we saw in 2009 when President Obama was criticized for his inaction or for standing on the sidelines. A lot of people were critical in saying that, and so you said the big difference between that and now is because President Trump, we're seeing leadership. So can you kind of tell us a little bit about what's going on and what you anticipate or hope to see from the Trump administration in addressing this?
Well, the president's leadership right now is critical. We need to learn our lesson from 2009. President Obama missed an opportunity. Millions of Iranians back in 2009 in the Green Revolution protesting the undemocratic election took to the streets. They wanted to overthrow the Iranian regime. President Obama basically said it was none of our business and we weren't involved at all. President Trump understands that an important lesson learned, that this is an opportunity making sure that we're not going to be propping up the wrong regime anymore. It's the Iranian regime right now that is calling America the Great Satan. They're pledging to wipe us off the map. They test fired intercontinental ballistic missiles in violation of UN Security Council resolution. It's the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism, financing terror. They have blood on their hands with dead U.S. service members, overthrowing foreign governments. These are just some of the examples. And Iranians are taking to the streets. They're emboldened, and President Trump is sounding off on it. He's realizing that we can't just say this is none of our business. If there was a free, stable, democratic Iran like millions of Iranians want, the Middle East would be better, American national security would be stronger, our allies would be stronger, our military would be safer, and the president recognizes that. The president realizes that American exceptionalism is nothing to apologize for. American greatness is something for us to be proud of. He's unapologetic about his love for America and understanding that our enemies, our adversaries don't respect weakness, they only respect strength. We can't be silent, not because we want war, but because we want to prevent it.
Well, thank you, Congressman. We appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, and Happy New Year, Lisa.
Thank you. You too. And joining me now, we've got Democratic strategist and Fox News contributor Richard Fowler and Rasmussen Report's political analyst Amy Holmes. Hey, guys.
Hey, to be
And we'll be very cold tomorrow in Times Square, so that's going to be fun. You know, Richard, I want to start with you. We're seeing that Democrats are kind of laying the groundwork to opposing the tax reform bill in 2018, making it sort of a key issue heading into the midterm elections. But we know that 80% of Americans are going to see a tax cut. We're seeing businesses dole out bonuses, making pledges for investments, and some even saying that they're going to increase their own minimum wage to $15 per hour. I mean, is that really something that Democrats want to run against?
I mean, I think we have to wait to see what the benefits of the tax bill are, but I think what you can see right now is that a lot of people in a lot of blue states and purple states are very unhappy with this tax bill.
But what about everyone else?
I mean, case in point being Fairfax County, Virginia, where their tax office was overrun with people trying to pay their property tax early so they don't get fined later because of irresponsibility by House Republicans.
But Democrats, particularly looking at the Senate, I mean, those guys aren't running in a lot of those states. The states that are very competitive for Democrats that they should be worried about are a lot of these red states.
No,
so, I mean, is it going to impact people like Joe Manchin for not having voted this or not voting for this when we're seeing companies already, pledging investments, already giving back bonuses?
Right. I hear that, and I think there are some companies that are using their money to invest, and I think that's a good thing for the economy. But you also have companies who gave back bonuses like AT&T, which is what the president sort of trumpeted as this great idea. But on that the day before Christmas, they also laid off thousands of workers. So if they had all this money to spare, then instead of giving out bonus, maybe they would have kept those workers instead. But at the end of the day, all these corporations have had monies on their books for years. Google, Apple, and Microsoft combined have $463 billion on their books, just sitting in cash. Giving them more cash does not increase our economy. We live in a demand-side economy, not a supply-side economy, and it's about time Republicans figure that out.
Amy, what do you think? Right now, we've looked at polling, and you work in polling. We saw Wall Street Journal, only 17% of Americans know that they're getting a tax cut. I mean, how beneficial is this going to be for Republicans? Obviously, they're going to run on this. This is a key, the biggest legislative victory Republicans have had last Congress, during 2017. So, I mean, what do you estimate to happen for Republicans with this law? And are Democrats going to be successful in their attacks?
Well, Lisa, Richard, we saw that press conference of how excited Republicans were to pass the tax bill. And Republican voters, they send Republicans to Washington to cut taxes. It's one of the top issues that Republican voters care about. But getting back to the Democratic strategy of resistance, Lisa, I got to ask Mark Penn yesterday on Mornings with Marie on Fox Business if he thought that this resistance was a smart strategy for Democrats. Now, remember, Mark Penn was Hillary Clinton's pollster in 2008. So we're talking from your side of the aisle. And he said it's risky. If the economy shows growth in this upcoming year, 3 to 4%, that a lot of those endangered Democrats in competitive districts or competitive states, it's going to be trouble for them. And, Chuck Schumer, he insisted on party unity, voting against this tax bill. There might be some Democrats who actually suffer.
Well, so I want to get ahead to 2018 and one of the major issues. Congress was given until March to basically address the DACA issue. So, Richard, President Trump said that basically DACA is not going to happen unless he gets his border wall, unless chain migration has ended, unless the visa lottery has ended as well. So what are Democrats willing to give up to get DACA done next year?
I think the deals have to be in the details. I think this president, as we know, blows a lot of hot air on Twitter. And so we have to wait to see what actually the deals of the legislative bill looks like before we could say anything.
Do you think they'd be on board with border security?
I think border security is one thing. I think the wall is something else. I mean, here's the truth. The truth is this. Under President Obama's last year in office, there was more individuals deported than under President Trump's first year. Well, I don't agree with that, but those are the facts. The second thing is this, is that the chain migration has been a policy in this country for almost 60 years. It benefited people like Melania Trump. That's how she and her family got here. So to say that and to lump all immigrants in with the one or two individuals that are bad actors and say we need to throw the whole policy out is irresponsible.
Do you think it's disingenuous for Democrats to be against a wall when, they voted for a Fence Act back in 2006? You've got people like Senator Feinstein, Chuck Schumer, who were then trumpeting border security, talking about how important it was, how much our country needs it. So, I mean, it's a little bit hypocritical for them to be so against it now.
No, not at all, because I think what we understand is that the wall is a pointless ideal. Not only is it going to cost the American people billions and billions and billions of dollars that we can't afford because we've already given $1.5 trillion away in a tax cut, but beyond that fact, all that's going to happen are individuals that are intent on crossing the border. Number one, there are already tunnels that are used by MS-13 and other gangs, but number two, they're just going to, if you build a 14-foot wall, they're going to build a 15-foot ladder matter. So what we've really got to do is find a way not only to make sure that we deal with the 11 million people here living in the shadows and find a way to give them a pathway to citizenship, but beyond that, we've got to solve DACA, and we've also got to deal with the fact that we've got to continue to, we're a country of law, but we're also a country of immigrants.
Well, and let's get Amy in here on this as well, because Republicans aren't necessarily all on board with the border wall as well. So, I mean, what do you foresee happening in the Republican Party? They've been divided themselves over issues on immigration. So, you know, what do you think we're going to see from the Republican front on DACA?
Well, Republicans are united when it comes to border security, and Democrats used to be, and apparently they've become
not necessarily
engineers.
The wall, though.
Well, they've become engineers in deciding which elements of border security would work. If you talk to local officials, as Fox did, I was watching it this afternoon, the Attorney General of Texas said putting up a wall between Mexico and El Paso made El Paso a much safer place. Republicans are not necessarily advocating putting up a concrete wall across all of those miles of border between California, hold on, Richard, let me finish. But where I think you're going to see some compromise is on different methods of border security, not necessarily this wall idea. But where rubber really hits the road, Lisa, is DACA's deadline in March. I would say with January, you're going to see a lot of posturing. Democrats saying, we don't need to compromise on this because the DACA, what happens there, the real deadline is in March. And then I think things get really heated up.
And, you know, another issue that's been talked about is infrastructure. President Trump is hoping to work with Democrats on that issue. You know, Richard, does this get done? Do you think infrastructure, or are Democrats on board with it?
So listen, this was the one thing I'll give the president. When he won his presidency, while I didn't agree with him, I thought that infrastructure was something that's very positive. We know tons and tons of engineers, the side of engineers have said that our infrastructure gets a D at best. If you go to airports in other parts of the country, in Switzerland, for example, they are 10 times nicer than LaGuardia.
I can agree with that. Richard and I have both been in that airport.
What the president did wrong in his strategy coming into the beginning of his term, instead of trying to reaching out across the aisle and going for infrastructure first, he decided to go for a repeal and replace first. Now he's in a hard place in January and February and March because he has a Senate where he's one vote short thanks to the Alabama race.
Let me get Amy in here real quick, just for timing purposes, because we're running out.
Sure.
Amy, what do you think? Does infrastructure get done? I mean, Republicans are probably going to be a little split on how to address that as well over issues like funding. Is it more federal? Is it more private?
Right, exactly.
So what do you think on infrastructure?
You would think that it should be bipartisan, but you might see some opposition, as you say, on the Republican side, because remember, Lisa, that when President Obama was elected, he did that big stimulus bill, and which of course had full Democratic support. And you know what President Obama said about that? One of the biggest lessons he learned as president is that there's no such thing as a shovel-ready job. So I think President Trump is going to have to navigate that within his own caucus of how best do we approach this that is the best use of taxpayer money.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your guys' time. This was a smart discussion, as I knew it would be when I knew you guys were coming
Lisa,
on.
Thank you.
And Richard, my friend, we will be...
Starts at 8 o'clock. People tune in. It's going to be good.
We are going to be freezing tomorrow. So have a great night, guys. And I'll see you tomorrow, Richard. All right. Well, coming up, Ambassador John Bolton's here to weigh in on the risks of war with North Korea in 2018. Justice is back in just a moment, and you're not going to want to miss it. Welcome back. President Trump with a strong warning this week for China to stop any illegal oil sales to North Korea. The president tweeted, caught red-handed, very disappointed that China is allowing oil to go into North Korea. There will never be a friendly solution to the North Korea problem if that continues to happen. And now reports that Russia is doing the exact same thing. Former ambassador to the UN and Fox News contributor John Bolton joins me now with his reaction. Hi, Ambassador.
Glad to be with you.
So, Ambassador, last night on this story, you reiterated something that CIA Director Mike Pompeo said not too long ago, and the fact that North Korea is just a few months away from perfecting their nuclear weapons capabilities. So my question to you is, what do we do? What are options on the table that the United States has between now and then?
Well, I think it's important to understand we're running out of time. There are a lot of ideas that are being thrown out that, 20 years ago might have been effective ways to deal with the North Korean threat. We don't have the luxury of time anymore, and I think it's that constraint that we need to keep in mind, because if you misestimate when North Korea does have the capability to drop thermonuclear weapons on American cities, at that point it's too late because of the risk of nuclear retaliation.
What tools do we have at our disposal? But what tools do we have at our disposal? Because I know that you've been critical of sanctions in the past, or at least saying that they're just not going to be effective, particularly given the time frame that we have. And as President Trump had tweeted, China's cheating, Russia's cheating, they're not following through on the sanctions. So what do we do? What tools do we have to try to really put the screws to them in that really short period of time?
Yeah, well, I think we've misapplied sanctions for a number of years. That's a different story. I think there's one diplomatic play left, and despite what we've seen by China's performance, I do think there's an argument to their national interest that reuniting the Korean Peninsula actually should work for them. I wish we'd started on that one a while ago, but people want to exhaust every potential diplomatic option. I think that's one we need to pursue. Otherwise, we're getting down to very unattractive options for the president. This is a legacy of 25 years of not stopping North Korea. But the options, I think, are going to come down to two very quickly. One is you let North Korea have deliverable nuclear weapons with all that that entails, or you look at the use of preemptive military force. Nobody likes either one of those options. But if those are the two that are there to choose, you're going to have to pick one.
Well, on the preemptive force, so the Pentagon had said not too long ago that basically the only way to fully and confidently get rid of the weapons that they have is ground invasion. I mean, so what options militarily do we have, and what would you suggest, or where do you think we go if that's the only option that we have left?
Well, I don't think that's the Pentagon view. I think there are a whole range of things we could do.
To Congress, or there was a letter to lawmakers from Pentagon saying, or from the Pentagon, basically saying that that was the only way that they would be fully confident
yeah, sure. If we took over North Korea, if we completely occupied it, we would be fully confident. The issue is there a way to go after the facilities that we know about and destroy them? And I think the answer to that's very clear. I think that is entirely doable. The problem is that any use of force against North Korea, a targeted assassination of Kim Jong-un, the use of special operators, cyber warfare even, could trigger a North Korean retaliation against South Korea. That's what people are most worried about, and legitimately so. So I think whatever option that we picked, we'd have to do whatever we could to minimize the potential for North Korean retaliation. And there have been analyses and contingency plans drawn for that. Nobody wants this conflict, but I think you have to look at it in a very cold and objective way, because the threat to the American people of North Korea not only having this capability itself, but selling it to others, selling it to Iran, selling it to terrorist groups, selling it to other aspiring nuclear weapon states, means that we are at the point today, if we don't stop North Korea, we will have lost 50 years of international effort to counter the proliferation of nuclear weapons. That's what's at stake here.
No, it's very scary. And Ambassador, looking ahead to 2018, what are the biggest national security challenges to this administration? I know there are many, but what would you say are the top three that are facing this administration and the country?
Well, I think the proliferation of nuclear weapons, which we've just talked about in the context of Korea, is obviously number one. I'd put it in the context of Iran, too. I don't think the Iranians have given up their pursuit of that objective, and they could well be doing it with the North Koreans. It's one reason this is so dangerous. I think the spread of international terrorism continues apace. We've seen attacks as recently as this past few days in Egypt and Afghanistan and Pakistan. So even the defeat of the ISIS caliphate doesn't mean that threat is over. I think it's going to continue throughout the new year. And then I think the slightly longer range threats of China and Russia remain. We need strategies to deal with them. I think the administration has begun that, but the threat remains acute. So I think 2018 on the national security front is going to be a very busy year for the administration.
A lot going on, and we appreciate your expertise and bringing that to us tonight. So thank you for joining us, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thank you, sir. All right. Looking forward to the new year and sharing their predictions for 2018, plus a look back at Judge Jeanine's interview at the Museum of the Bible, so stay right there. Hi, and welcome back to Justice. Let's take a look ahead and have a little bit of fun predicting what we think 2018 will bring. My power panel is here to break it all down. Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk and Democratic strategist Danielle McLaughlin, who are here with me now. Hey guys, all right, well, let's have a little bit of fun with this, because It's almost the new year, and fun is needed sometimes. Charlie, so hit me. 2018 predictions. What are your top three? What are we going to see?
Sure. So I think the GOP is going to win Big League in 2018 in November. I think they're going to do very, very well, better than what some people might believe. I think we're going to hit 5% economic growth because of this amazing tax cut that was just passed. I think it's going to far surpass estimates. And finally, I think that the Russia investigation will exonerate President Trump and actually backfire against its original intent to try to politically harm the president. I think it's actually going to give a clean bill of health and show that there is no collusion in the 2016 presidential elections. Those are my big three predictions heading into 2018.
Charlie, those are some pretty big predictions. So, Danielle, what do you think about that? So, Charlie said big wins in 2018 for Republicans. Mueller's going to exonerate President Trump, and we're going to hit 5% economic growth. Your thoughts?
I'm not going to actually quibble with 5% economic growth. I think that would be amazing. I think that we're going to see a blue wave in 2018 just based on what we're seeing with the kind of Democrats are up 13 points in the generic ballot. So I'm going to disagree with Charlie on that. My big concern with 2018 is the royal wedding and whether both Obama and Trump will be invited, just to put a little bit of a light spin on all of this. And the last thing I'll say is women. Women. From the Women's March, we're going to see women in 2018 running from everything from dog catcher to senator, and I think that's a fantastic thing.
Do you think Dems are overplaying their hand a little bit on tax or opposing tax reform? Also, we've seen the economy been growing at a pretty steady pace here. We've already seen companies dole out bonuses, plan for investments as well. So do you think Democrats are maybe overplaying their hand a little bit there, Danielle?
It's possible. We will see. Like I said, up 13 in the ballot right now. That's really good. If this happened in 2008, 2010, and we saw big swings, both Republicans and Democrats. So I think it could happen, but that might change. We're a long way from the midterms, as much as other pundits might tell you that it's around the corner.
Well, I know as much because I have worked in politics for a long time. So we feel like it's a year away. It will be, or it feels like 5 years. All right. So Danielle, what are your three biggest predictions 2018?
So 2018, I'm just going to tell you, the women, we're taking it away. We're taking away in all of these races. I'm interested to see what's going to happen with the Mueller investigation. I'm not sure it's going to be exoneration. I think we could go for years. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see. As long as they get to the bottom of it, it's cool. It's fine with me. Whatever happens, happens. We just want to get to the truth.
What was your third? You said...
Oh, yeah, women, Mueller. And then I said the royal wedding. Will Obama and Trump be both coming? This is a huge political scandal in the making. I'm hoping that they both go and we can all just be friends for the sake of the royals.
Do you think the president wants to attend the wedding?
No, I don't think that's going to be a top priority. But I will comment back on. No. I will comment back on what you were mentioning with this supposed Democratic wave that's building in 2018. Be very, very careful. I think with saying that. I mean, the map is heavily favored Republicans. You look at states like North Dakota, Montana, Missouri, Indiana, West Virginia. Those are all incumbent Democrat senators, and those states still have high favorability ratings for Republicans and for President Trump. And again, the economy is booming. It's just indisputable, and you're seeing companies dish out hundreds of millions of dollars in bonuses and trillions of dollars of capital going to start to come back to this country. And so there's going to be a lot of headwinds, and the Democrats are going to be on the wrong side of tax reform and tax cuts, which they already proved they were back here in December.
And I want to get your guys' prediction on another issue. We talked a little bit earlier on the show about immigration and DACA and the deadline that President Trump gave Congress to March to figure it out. So, Charlie, I'll start with you. Do you think something is going to get done on DACA? And President Trump said he wants the wall. He wants to get rid of chain migration. He wants to get rid of the diversity lottery. So what do you think? Is he going to get those objectives? Is he going to get those priorities done?
So my prediction will be that the president stands firm, and the president's going to do what he said he's going to do. The problem, I think, is you're going to see defecting Republican senators that are going to do some sort of bait-and-switch deal to try to get a back-end, deal to not have DACA either continued or to have the wall not funded. The president, I think, is going to stand firm. But look, there's a lot of decisions that have to be made here, and until we have strict border security, immigration is only going to be a perpetual issue in this country that we're going to be talking about every 10 years because we've never actually fixed the issue itself.
Danielle, what's wrong with border security? Why do so many Democrats, they seem to oppose it, and I think Democrats are really going to have a split as well in their party. I mean, we've seen immigration activists. We even saw Nancy Pelosi sort of get an earful from immigration activists. So I think Democrats are going to have a hard time 2 on DACA, and any concessions they make are going to be perceived negatively from those activists and from that part of their base. So, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen with DACA and Democrats? Will they concede on border security or not?
I think they're going to have to try and thread the needle. I think that the wall is a symbolic piece of resistance against the Trump agenda in some ways, and I think it is seen in a very negative light by many Democrats. So I think what the Democrats probably should do is be willing to spend money on security, so additional personnel.
What about the wall?
I think the wall is going to be a sticking point. I just don't see Democrats coming on board, and I fear for the DACA recipients. Personally, no. I think that from an environmental perspective, from a property rights perspective,
you just said it was symbolic.
The wall is a bad idea.
Well, you just said it was symbolic.
Symbols matter in politics, as you well know. But for the fundamental policies behind it, I think, are also problematic.
All right, so we're running out.
Walls work, so.
We're running out of time here. So real quick, I just want to get you guys on infrastructure. Charlie, does the infrastructure bill get done?
I hope so. And look, this is something the Democrats have to get on board for. And look, the president has some very bold ideas that he's going to start rolling out. Some of the whispers in the wind are that he's going to try to have a big 5G national Wi-Fi plan. Some of this stuff's going to be really hard for Democrats to oppose. This is stuff that they've been advocating for themselves. The question is, how do you pay for it? That's going to be the question.
Well, and that's a good question. That is going to be an issue for Republicans and for Democrats. Danielle, real quick, we're running out of time. Does infrastructure get done?
I hope it does, and I actually agree with Charlie that the devil will be in the details, and that means payment, how this gets paid for.
Good point. All right, well, we're going to see. They made their predictions, so we'll have to, well, I can't speak for Judge Jeanine, so I can't invite you guys back on the show, actually. We'll see. Maybe you'll come back. Maybe you won't. No, I'm just kidding. You'll probably come back. But anyways, thanks for your time, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Thanks, guys. All right, well, religious liberty in America, another critically important topic in 2017, and I'm sure it will continue to be in 2018 as well. So let's take a look back at Judge Jeanine's exclusive interview with Hobby Lobby CEO and chairman of the board for the Museum of the Bible, Steve Green. Take a listen.
Now, you are one of the world's largest retailers, privately owned retailers, and one of the most successful businessmen in the country. And yet you've undertaken this mammoth project, 430,000 square feet, the Museum of the Bible here in Washington, D.C. There is nothing like it anywhere in the world. Why?
I grew up in a home that had a love for God's Word. I grew up in a Christian home. My parents took us to church and raised our family according to the Bible. And in our business, if you look at the first statement of purpose in our business, it says to operate our business according to biblical principles. And it has served us well. And I am blessed to be born in a country that our founders built from principles they found in this book. So I have been blessed personally by this book in multiple ways. And we just want to encourage others to consider this book themselves. We want to inspire them to engage with it and consider the principles this book teaches for their own life.
You know, they say that 90% of American homes have within them a Bible. And yet it seems that this generation, unlike previous generations, has never been more distanced from the Bible. Why do you think that is?
Yeah, I think you could argue we're probably more ignorant of this book than we have ever been as a nation. And I believe primarily because we don't teach it in our schools as we once did. It was regularly taught in our schools, so people grew up knowing it. Our founders, it was common. They would speak from the Bible and they wouldn't have to give chapter and verse because everybody knew what they were talking about. Today, you make a quote from the Bible and many have no idea what you're talking about or where the source is. Even common phrases within our vernacular come from the Bible that many people would have no idea that that's where it comes from.
In this museum, you have created technology to tell this story. Technology, I understand, that didn't exist. You created it and patented it. Tell us about that.
There is new technology. One specific example is there is a digital docent. It's a tablet, smaller than maybe an iPad, a little larger than an iPhone, where a visitor can customize it, tell it how long they want to be in the museum, what their interest is, and then it will direct them through the museum using indoor guidance that knows where they're at within inches. This is some of the new technology that we have patented.
Bronze doors downstairs, powerful, impactful, but more than that, how much do they weigh?
16 tons collectively. You don't want them falling over on you, that's for sure.
How do you deliver 16 tons of doors?
One piece at a time.
Museum of the Bible, the Capitol, Supreme Court, Library of Congress. It's amazing how much of our American history reflects quotes from the Bible.
So this is the Museum of the Bible here, and we can show you how far. We're just a few blocks from the United States Capitol.
And so what is written in the United States Capitol?
Well,
it's
there's
quoted
a lot
from
of
the
things.
Bible.
What we do is some of the paintings right there in the rotunda, the Mayflowers are coming over. There is a Bible that they're showing, a Geneva Bible that's in the painting that we'll show. This is where we have scripture around us all day long. In many cases we don't even know it. It's just phrases from our language that are used.
Here you have Victoria Beckham with a tattoo that literally quotes the Song of Solomon. You know, that the Bible is so relevant to so many people in so many ways that we don't even recognize. One of the things that you have done that also speaks to how religion plays such an important part of your life is, as that not-for-profit business owner of Hobby Lobby, you took the Obama administration to the United States Supreme Court. You fought for religious freedom. You funded the case. Where the Obama administration made a mandate that religion be damned, and you would have to pay for abortifacts for any employee in your employ. And you felt that that was a violation of your religious freedom. Number one, why? How hard was it? And what did it feel like when you won?
If life begins at conception, as our family believes, then to take part of an abortive drug or process, we view that as taking life. And that is something that violates our religious beliefs. And there are many in this country. There are many that believe the same way that we do. That taking life is obviously, in our mind, wrong. And so for the government to come in and tell us that we had to freely provide to our employees products that could take life, that violated our conscience, and we felt like we had no option but to take and challenge the government on the mandate that they required us to take part of that. And so we met as a family, and the decision was unanimous that we really felt like we had no option but to challenge the government that we love on the mandate that they had put on our business.
And when you won?
We won. It was an exciting day. I think that there was, for many of us, we somewhat felt like we would have a win, but there's no guarantee. There was a certain comfort that we had that we knew we were doing the right thing. And we were at Oxford, my wife and I. The rest of the family was at the corporate office at our offices in Oklahoma City, and we were Skyping in, and it was just a thrilling day to know that the foundational principle that this nation was built upon, our religious freedoms, were upheld. And just the pride of our country is, I remember some of the feelings that I had. This section is called Bible Now, showing how people are engaging with it right now. Another world map showing people that are opening up the app to engage with the Bible. So the skeptic comes in here thinking that nobody's reading this book anymore. No, there are people all over the world right now engaging with this book, and there is no book that can compare to that.
And what do you say to American families about coming here?
Well, our purpose is we want to invite all people to engage with this book. So this is a museum for all people. This book has spoken into people from all different walks of life and has impacted lives from all different walks. And so this is a place for people to come in and learn.
Well, Stephen Green, you know, on behalf of so many of us, you and Mrs. Green, your wife Jackie, have done an unbelievable job here. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Coming up, President Trump blasting the media once again. His latest tweet on why he has to use social media, coming up. President Trump's battle with the media dominating much of 2017 and will surely continue to make headlines in the new year. The president tweeting a short time ago, "I use social media not because I like to, but because it is the only way to fight a very dishonest and unfair press," now often referred to as fake news media, phony and non-existent sources are being used more often than ever. Many stories and reporters are pure fiction. Joining me now with his reaction to all of this and more is political consultant and member of the advisory board for Trump 2020, Harlan Hill. Hey, Harlan.
It's great to be with you.
It's great to be with you too, my friend. All right, so I want to get your reaction. Obviously, huge story throughout 2017. The media did not like a lot of the things that the president did. President Trump did not like a lot of the things that the media did. So there was a lot of back and forth. But I want to talk to you specifically about that statement that I read and that tweet that he read, and saying that, you know, he doesn't use social media because he likes to. It's because he has to.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, and that's backed up by the facts. Look, I'm really data-driven. And when you look at how the media has covered him over the last year, just 5% of their coverage has been positive. Comparing that to Obama, right, in his first year, their coverage was glowing. On the cover of Newsweek magazine, they literally put a halo behind Obama's head to make him look like he was Jesus, right? And meanwhile, you have magazines holding up a severed head of the President of the United States, President Trump. You have comedians doing the same thing in Hollywood. The coverage that he has gotten, the lack of respect that they have for the office and the President of the United States is uncharted.
What do you think, in your assessment, what are some of the more glaring examples that you've seen throughout 2017?
Well, actually, I find the most offensive example is the fact that they don't cover any of the positive things that he's done. I mean, you look at the stock market, for instance. We've hit over 70 highs on the NASDAQ New York Stock Exchange over the last year. The economy is roaring. We have 3% growth for 2 quarters in a row. We haven't had this in a long time. We had this historic tax bill. The most egregious example is the fact that they're not looking at the positives that are happening. And it's not about the president. And the president makes this clear. The news here isn't that he's having success. It's that the American people finally have relief after 8 years of economic stagnation. And the media is not covering it. That's the story of 2018. And we're not hearing it. If you watch CBS or NBC or ABC, you don't even know that this is happening.
Do you worry if voters aren't hearing it, that that's going to have a negative impact for Republicans in 2018 or 2020?
Well, I mean, ultimately, they look at their paycheck, and it's going to be getting bigger in 2018. Right? I mean, you have pay increases across the board, take-home pay is going up. More money in your pocket should translate to votes. But we know that the mainstream media, they are diametrically opposed to this president, and they're going to come up with every excuse to make it seem as though the president isn't the reason for it. And they've already started doing that. That's how I know that this is going to happen. They say, oh, the economy's cyclical, the stock market's cyclical, you know, Obama set up all of this, he deserves credit for this. But, you know, we have common sense, and we look at the last 8 years where things just didn't feel like anything was getting done. And the contrast is extremely stark, and the American people are smart enough to know why this is happening.
What do you think that the negative media attention that President Trump gets, because we had showed earlier on the screen for the viewers at home, the Pew Research Center, because you had mentioned it in what you're talking about.
Sure.
And the fact is that we've seen President Trump has gotten 3 times more negative coverage. I think it was in his first 60 days of office, according to Pew Research. So does this have a galvanizing effect for those who support the president? Because do they view this as, you know, the president is under attack, as you had mentioned, that he's being treated unfairly, that, you know, there's a lot of positive things going on in their life in terms of the economy, but they're not seeing that on their television screens. They're not seeing that when they're reading it either. So, you know, in your estimation, does this have a galvanizing effect?
Well, Republican confidence in the media, Republicans' belief in the media is down to 14%. Only 14% of Republican voters in this country believe that the media is giving anybody a fair shake or reporting real news. So this didn't happen overnight. This isn't just about President Trump. The reason President Trump was elected was because Republicans were fed up, and they finally took a stand against the mainstream media's rhetoric. They finally took a stand against the talking points that have come down from on high from the DNC, as we saw with the email leaks, literally going to writers at the New York Times, telling them how to carry out a story. And so they're finally taking a stand and they're saying enough's enough.
All right, real quick, yes or no, does he ever take it too far? right, we'll leave it there. We'll leave it there.
I'm not gonna. President, I love you.
All right. Harlan, thank you. I thought yes or no would maybe. All right, thank you. Happy New Year. Coming up, you've been waiting for it all night. The best of Judge Jeanine's Street Justice is next. Stay tuned. Well, it's been a great year, but unfortunately we have to say goodbye to 2017. So let's take a look back at the best of Judge Jeanine's Street Justice and some of her favorite moments. Take a look.
How do you have so much faith in Donald Trump?
Why? Because you just think he's a real person and he wants to make real differences in people's lives.
We feel like the world is going to be righted the right way.
Yeah.
And we're kicking this guy on his airplane back to wherever he belongs. And you know what?
What?
He's going to have to wash his own damn dishes tonight.
Oh! Why are they protesting?
I think they're bored. They're not working.
A couple of years ago, I went back home and I had a long beard and I was stopped at the airport. Well, not really stopped.
All right, you were stopped. You were questioned. Did they let you through?
Yeah, they did.
Okay, let's get over it. What now?
Are these mainstream media people out of their minds?
They are.
Why?
Forget about it.
I can't forget about it. We got to do a segment. Should Hillary come back and run for mayor?
No! Everybody should be on Obamacare and let me know how they live their lives. How about that?
You know, Paul Ryan, this is what makes me furious. The media is all focused on Russia and investigations. What would you like the president to be doing now?
Building the wall.
What do you want the president to do for you?
Stop tweeting.
So me and Matilda are here on the border in Cochise County in Arizona. Matilda and I are going to go for a little walk and find out how protected we are. As you can see, we're coming to the end of the 20-foot fence, and going further, there is virtually no fence. There's virtually no fence. As you can see, it's dark. We're on a dusty road. We're going right to the border and to see what activity is going on there. What you're seeing right now is me 100 yards from the border through the technology, through the night vision that Border Patrol has. Their technology is even more advanced. We can't talk about that. But as they police and patrol the area, they can see shadows. They can see individuals coming along the border, irrespective of how black it is, how dark it is. Here we are securing the border. Fox News at work. Have you heard about the rats in the White House?
I have not.
How do we find out who's doing the leaking?
I guess you get someone to leak that to you.
Ah, very good. Are you worried about nuclear war?
No.
Why not?
I don't know. I'm worried about these dogs at the moment.
You worried about nuclear war? Were you worried about, what should we do to Kim Jong-un from North Korea? What should we do to him?
Strap him to the rocket.
How tall are you?
6'9".
6'9"?
Yep.
You play basketball?
Used to.
Yeah, why'd you give it up?
I got old.
Why are the football players protesting?
They're not really protesting.
What are they doing?
I don't think they know.
Because they want to stand for something, and they're fed up of the discrimination.
They're not standing, they're taking a knee. They're commies. They're what? Commies. Is this the real Melania Trump? Stop kissing me.
Oh, gosh, not him.
So you don't think he's the sexiest man alive?
I'm sorry, no.
Who is the sexiest man alive?
That guy? Right? Is that the good answer?
We love you.
I love you. You're amazing.
Oh, I like him too.
Here's the judge! Bam! The judge, jury, and executioner!
Yeah, that's me, baby. Okay, Lindsey Vonn, the Olympic gold medalist, the skier, says that she'll represent the United States in the Olympics, but she won't represent Donald Trump. What do you think of that?